How to play an 8-bar major blues, plus 4 hot licks that you can play for each change. Getting started with the progression, it starts with G dominant 7. A 1, 2, 3, 4. C9. Back to the 1. To the 5. And some licks. 1, 2, 3. The 4. The 1. Let's break that down. Okay, so some blues fundamentals for your weekend practice. Getting started breaking down that essential chord progression. It's a 1-4-5. We're playing it today in the key of G. First we have the 1 chord, G dominant 7. We can play this in one of 2 ways. We have the barred version, barring the 3rd fret, low E to high E, grabbing the 5th fret A string and the 4th fret G string. You can add your pinky to the 6th fret of the B string as well for an extra dominant 7. But you might just like to thumb this chord. Very cool way of playing the chord. Sounds a little bit more authentic and jazzy because you're omitting the 5th found on the A string, which is very common. All right, so here my thumb's playing the root note. Then I've got the 3rd fret of the D string, 3rd fret of the B string, and my ring finger grabbing the major 3rd of the chord, 4th fret G. All right, that's every single dominant 7 chord rooted off of the low E string, regardless of how you play it. Okay, now we have the 4 chord, which we could play just by taking this up to the 8th fret position. But instead, we're gonna play it here as this colorful 9 chord. All right, so that's gonna be frets 3, 2, and then with the bar, 3, 3, 3. All right, that's every single dominant 9 chord in the book. All right, then we'll go back to the 1. All right, then finally we're gonna go to the 5 chord in the key of G, which is going to be D dominant 7. All right, I'm playing it as a C7 shape transposed up to the key of D. So frets 5, 4, 5, 3. The high E string will be muted, as will the low E string. All right, put those 3 chords together, we can add this rhythm. It's going to be strum, slap, slap, strum, slap, slap. And I'm using hybrid picking here. The bass note is being played with the pick, and the highs are being played with the middle finger, paintbrushing up the strings. Notice how I'm squeezing with my left hand to make that chord sound nice and short, nice and staccato. So 1, 2, 3, 4, strum, slap, slap. All right, so after 2 measures there on the G, we're gonna switch chords now to the 4 chord C9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure your pick is following the root note of each chord. Back to the low E string with the root. All right, then onto the 5 chord, grabbing the A string with your pick. All right, you put all that together and we have 8 bars of music. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4. 2 measures on G. Then the 5 chord, D7. One more time, practice with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. C9. A string root. Back to the 1. And to the 5. All right, if you can play that successfully and you're making those transitions, then I recommend playing this progression in every single key up the fretboard. Try it in all of your natural keys, for example. It's a great way to start. So for example, you could play it in the key of C by moving the whole operation to the 8th fret position. Whatever your first root note is going to be the key you're playing in. So key of C. 4. That's F. Back to C. Now the 5, G dominant 7. Alright, and if that gets boring for you, then you can play around with adding a little bit of flavor by sharpening or flattening the various chords before you get to them. So it could be something like this. A 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now that you have the rhythm down, let's move on to learning some licks. Okay, getting started learning some licks, I'm going to be using a few different scales and solo in boxes, specifically the G minor blues scale, with the addition of the major third since I'm jamming in a major key, so adding in some B notes. Right there on the 4th fret G. Right there on the 2nd fret A string. Alright, just to kind of add some major flavor to the scale. Alright, the other thing I'm going to be using is the BB's box, which in the key of G, all I need to do is find a G note on the B string, then I can play this little box. Alright, that's going to sound great over top of that 1 chord. Alright, and then finally, I'm also going to be using the major pentatonic scale in the key of D, like this. Alright, so just think about that My Girl main riff, right? That's going to be the major pentatonic scale sound. I can also play it here off of the low E string. So that's something I can play over top of the 5 chord, perhaps with the addition of a dominant 7. Okay, with those scales in mind, we have the following licks. A 1, 2, 3. And real slow, 1, 2, 3. The 4 chord. Back to the 1. And the 5. All right, breaking those down one by one, getting started with the first lick. It's gonna come in right after beat number 3. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, breaking that up into 3 parts. Part 1, part 2, part 3. Okay, so that began grabbing the 3rd frets of the B and the high E strings together, picturing that minor blues scale key of G. Next, we're gonna pull off B string 6 going down to 3 for part number 1. All right, next we're going to slide. All right, that was the 5th fret of the G string going up a half step. Next, we're going to pull off 5 going down to 3. Put those 2 parts together, we have. All right, then to the root note. Throwing in that minor to major 3rd trick. That's going to be the 5th fret of the D string, then G string 3 up to 4 with a hammer on, and then right back to the root note. Put all 3 parts together and we have. Alright, and with the backing track, and remember everybody, if you want to learn more about these High Vibe smart guitars and their new product, the High Vibe Essential, which allows you to put this technology into any acoustic guitar, follow the link down in the description. So 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. And real slow. All right, that gets us to the 4 chord where we're gonna play 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And real slow. Okay, so there I'm on the 5th fret of the G string. I'm gonna slide up and back before pulling off down a full step. Next we're gonna play. All right, so that was the 5th fret of the G string, 3rd fret B, 3rd fret G, slight bend, back to the root note, and then the minor 3rd fret of the G string, because that note is inside the C9 chord. Put those 2 licks together and we have licks for the 1 and 4 chords. 1, 2, 3. And you can get a nice snap on the string if you kind of pinch it with the pick and the index finger, kind of popping it like a slap bassist. All right, so one more time with the backing track. 1, 2, 3. The 4, 1. And then all right, when we're back to the 1 chord again for the 2nd time, we can play this sweet B.B. King style lick right in the BB's box. All right, one more time. A 1. And full speed again. A 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so that began picturing that BB's box position. Sliding up into the position, 9th fret of the G string. All right, then 8th fret B. 1st staccato, 2nd nice and long with the vibrato. It's coming in right after the 1st beat, a 1. All right, next we're gonna play. All right, that was the 9th fret G going to the 8th fret B. Bending the 11th fret B string up. All right, then on the high E string, 8, 10. Finally, a nice, slow, soulful bend back on the B string, 11th fret. A great lick to play over top of that 1 chord. All right, adding it into the mix. A 1, 2, 3. The 4 chord. The 1. All right, now we have our final lick of our practice routine here. It's gonna look and sound like this real slow. Alright, and then resolving right there, overlapping with the G dominant 7 chord played as a C-shaped position by no coincidence, and still right there in that BB's box position. Alright, one more time. Okay, so that began walking up the D major pentatonic scale, because again, we're playing over the 5 chord D7. All right, so almost like a bass player, nice and staccato, very syncopated. So 5, 5, sliding up to 9, 7 on the D, and then the 9th fret of the D string. From there, we're gonna play this very cool, sweet arpeggio idea. Grabbing the dominant 7 of the chord with a hammer on. So 9 going up to 10. Next we're going to play this kind of staircase shape arpeggio. The D string going up to the high E string. So the hammer onto the G string, 9, 8, 7. Next walk chromatically up the high E string up to fret number 10. This is definitely an advanced lick, but it's something you can definitely get down if you play it nice and slow and also practice it in small chunks. So don't try to tackle the whole lick all at once. Take it chunk by chunk and then put those chunks together one by one. That's chunk number 1. That could be chunk number 2. Notice how I'm just dropping my pick down the strings. All right, next the chromatic walk. Going up to fret number 10. All right, next, the final piece of the puzzle. All right, we're outlining the incoming chord, which is going to be G major. And resolving right there inside its C7 shape. Okay, a C7 chord transposed up to G. All right, so that last little arpeggio, 7, 8, 7, 10, sliding up to 9, and then finding the harmony on the B string 8th fret. You put that full lick together and we have. And at full speed. And adding it into the mix with the backing track. A 1, 2, 3. The 4. Back to the 1. 1. And the 5. And then conveniently, you're right there finishing up in the BB's box where you can continue soloing. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this quick blues lesson and that you're gonna put those licks to good use. Of course, I'm gonna have a PDF study guide for you and also a guitar profile at patreon.com/swiftlessons. There you can find tabs for all my popular YouTube guitar lessons and also a ton of exclusive content as well. Until next time, this is Rob coming at you temporarily from Krakow, Poland, saying happy picking.